We're now going to look at how we read text files. Sometimes you want to be able to save things in a file that you can then retrieve in a later session. So what files allow us to do is they allow us to save and they allow us to retrieve data that we might have stored at some other point. So we're going to read a file, and there are really three steps to it. First of all, you open the file, you read the file, and then you close it. So let's do this using the first of three methods. So we're going to use the read method to start with. The first thing we do, as I mentioned, is we open our file. So we use the open function, and we can open a file called shopping.txt. You'll notice on the bottom right hand side that's where our shopping list is. So that's what we're going to read that file in. Now this file is in the same folder as this code, so therefore I don't need to put in the full path name. So that makes it nice and easy. I'm also going to put in an access specifier here. So what this does tells us that we're reading files. So read means that we're reading the file. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to, so we've named our file pointer to be called file, and then we want to read it. So do file read, and then we close our file, and then we're just going to print out the contents of what we've read. So actually what we do when we read the files, we do text equals, so that text now is going to be a string, and we want to print that out just so that we know that we've read it correctly. We're going to run the program now, and it will print out all the contents of that file. So you can see there's printed out bananas, apples, milk, bread, and chocolate biscuits. That's fine, and read is a perfectly reasonable way of reading our text files, but it puts it into a single string, which makes it a little bit tricky to process. So I'm going to introduce you now to another read method, and that one is called readline. What this does is it reads in one at a time each of the lines. So if I show you how this works, I'm going to do print readline, and then I'm going to just read out just the first few lines. Print readline, do that 3, 4. So it's going to output the first 4 items in the list when I run this program. So you can see there it's done bananas, apples, milk, and bread. Now you notice it's also put a space in between. That'll become evident shortly, but that's basically because it's adding in a new line character. So the next method I want to introduce you to is readlines. So it's easy to get confused between the two, but this just has an S on the end. This reads in the whole file, and it's really useful because what it does is it puts it into a list which makes subsequent processing a little bit easier. So I'm going to create now a list, and the list now is called text, and I will print out text and run so you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see that has produced a nice list. Now you notice there it's got the new line character, so it's got \n at the end of each of our list items. Now that's not really desirable, and we do want to get rid of that in most cases. So we're going to have to modify our code slightly to be able to do that. So the first thing we do, the first modification we do, is to create an empty list called text. We open our file as normal, and then we need to loop through the file, stripping out the new line character. So I'm going to do for line in file read lines, and then we're going to do text dot append. So we're going to do lines. So I'm just going to do that to start with, and then we close our file, and then I'm just going to print out text at the end. So we can run that. So there's not a lot of difference between those two. What we need to do is we can easily modify the code now to strip out the \n, the new line character. So we do dot strip, open bracket, \n, and then make sure that's in speech marks as well. So now when we run our program, it will have removed \n at the end of each line, and we have a nice list now with each of our items in, so we can access each of those items easily enough. So if you just wanted to get milk, for example, we could just do text. Well, it's the third item in the list, so we just do text 2, and read lines is my method of choice for reading in files because it puts it into a nice list and makes it much more accessible for subsequent processing.